Okay, you go first.
Well, Julie, my neighbor, she wrote something out for you, which is more conclusive, but, you know, there are several, you know, of all these streets, I know all these streets you're mentioning.
Mhm.
No street gets visited by the town as much as our street. In fact, even my property, I have 2 parcels of land, we have a right of way for pedestrians to walk through. We have to let them through.
Right.
There's a doggy daycare or dog training place in Florence, and she actually recommends our street for dog walkers and people who have disabilities because we have a nice flat street to access the path. In addition, we have a fire hydrant at the end of the street.
You're the one with the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We have a
Yep.
fire hydrant at the end of the street. We have town water, town sewer. We've got 2 utility poles. You know, when and just lastly, Julie will speak, but when we're taking care of that area, people actually thank us. They don't even think we own that land. They think we're doing the town a favor. We are. We pay taxes on it. We mow it. And it's not even feels like part of our property, but we do that for the town because people walk by, they bike by, they wheelchair by, and you know, it's more public than any of these streets, in my opinion.
I'm just gonna read this because I just think it.
Okay, what's your name, Julie?
Oh, I'm Julie Rosenstein. I live at 3 Bratton Court.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for the ways that you help our community to run well. You've been very much of service to us. I've been happily living at my home in Bratton Court for 8 years. I'm writing on behalf of myself and maybe some others on the street about making our private way public or really private. We are hoping that the city will see to keep the need for the street functioning as a public one and make it legally so, since in reality it has been functioning as a public street for many years, and I feel with good reason. Making it lawfully a private street would really impact not only our homes and our street, but I know it would impact the greater community, the bikers, the pedestrians, and the community business that have relied on this street for its use. If our street were not considered public and there were no public services rendered, the impact would be felt by these other contingencies. So I saw 3 things that are key, that in my view. First of all, the utilities. The street has the water line that's running down the length to the hydrant, which serves our street, but also, you know, there's that big Florence Savings Bank parking lot. And, you know, 50 cars parked there a day. There's 75 spaces, I counted. And although there is a fire hydrant that's like equidistant down by Keys Avenue, like if there were to be a fire, like our hydrant is really closest to that row of trees and that whole parking lot. If the car, something happened there, we're really the block that would be the most water friendly to that whole area.
Sure.
Okay. We have National Grid power line. The next stop is by Florence Savings Bank, where their ATM gets their power, you know, and so that utility line is important. We have sewer that's public, and we have businesses that sort of depend on our street for also those utilities. Then there's Star Pizza, and this is a little different than what Cooper's Corner is to Wilder, because Cooper's Corner has a loading dock and a parking lot. Star Pizza does not. Star Pizza, their loading trucks actually sit on Bratton Court, and we've been really nice about this actually. We've let them be there because we understand if they can't sit on Bratton Court and unload, then they have to go on Route 9, which is blocking traffic, which causes not only a blockage in traffic, but also their customers wouldn't be able to park in those spots there.
Sure.
Fink and Perez relies on those spots for their servicing, and the 5-Star Pizza only has 2 spots. They have a delivery truck that comes 2 to 3 times a week, different delivery trucks, if not more. They have 3 pizza delivery guys that come in and out, which we are at peace with them. Because we understand they're community owned, it's a family service, people love that place, and they have 2 owner cars that are there. If we can't have access in and out because there's a truck blocking the way, I mean, it's gonna create a lot of traffic issues, I think.
Okay.
So that's that issue. And then there's the pedestrian and public access issue. I don't know, are you familiar with the 10 or 20 kids that walk after school?
10 or
that
20, it's more like 100.
Well, it's 10 or 20 at a time,
Yeah.
because I've really counted. There's a lot. And they used to congregate outside of the Florence Savings Bank until they got rid of the picnic benches. Well, now those kids go to Friendly's and use our block as their kind of hangout. They sit on the rocks that are on the entrance to Bratton Court. It's safe. It's better than it was behind Florence Savings, where they did all sorts of different things because they weren't in the public eye. And they use it, you know, to go through every day. And on Fridays, we're the spot. I mean, that's where these kids have a safe place to sort of hang out.
Mhm.
So not only is there pedestrian traffic, you know, from those kids, but on one day on August 6th, I just sat for a couple of hours and I counted from my porch. We had 3 couples, 2 elementary school kids, 3 dog walkers, 2 pizza delivery trucks, and another group of parents that used the path, like 2 groups of parents at 8 p.m. And, you know, my dog knows when people walk by, so she alerts me. We had a lot of people coming through there. To make it a private way would almost be, you know, more of a I mean, we would have to really keep people off the street. And we don't really want to. They are using it as such.
And we also have a letter from
I'll get there.
the dog.
Historically, Bratton Court has acted as a public way by allowing these people to come through. We've always appreciated what has been done there to keep our roadway passable, safe, and safe for cars and commerce. We've relied on the town to, you know, to let us do this because I think it is a community service. And we understand that our street is only 10 feet wide. It could be easily done if there were a survey to pick up the features of the street and craft the width accordingly to zoning standards. We're for that. We want, take my front up, that's fine.
Okay, please.
So we really do feel like it's a public road and has been helping the community, and we'd like to keep it, to have it that.
All right, thank you.
And one other thing, the Leading the Way Dog Company wrote a little letter also on our behalf. It's short, I'll be really short.
Okay.
Okay. It's a family-owned business for 25 years. We have 200 families in the community. While working with dog training clients, we frequently recommend that customers who need walking practice with their dogs go on the side of our building, use the crosswalk by Friendly's, and go to Bratton Court because the street is level. It allows for wheelchairs, and also it's a dog-friendly place without unwelcoming homeowners or traffic. Some people don't want you walking through. We are fine with it. Bratton Court is not a private street as far as we have known it for many years now. We and our customers have been using it. Its access to the rail trail is one of our best public places to walk and train dogs near our facility. The street should be kept as it is, a great little public street that pedestrians and their dogs can use that is dog-friendly, safe, and not full of racing cars.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes?
Hi, my name's Chris Kennedy, I'm a resident of Brad Court, and I guess I'd also like to preface by I'm really happy with what the way the DPW has maintained the street, as well as any of the services that come out of this department. It's been really first class, and I'm really very happy with it. I would look at the tact of, and again, in favor of having it made into accepted as a public street, and I look at it more from the historical aspect of it. The street was essentially laid out by Charles Bratton in 1924, which it certainly predates most of Northampton's municipal zoning, if not zoning in general in the United States. It's always been held forth as a public street. It's always maintained by the city for the length of time that it's been in existence. And I guess I'd just like to say that under historical precedents, it's always been seen as a public way, as opposed to a private way, and I think that to consider it otherwise at this point would be in many ways a disservice to the residents. Our tax rate is not going to be any different than what we're paying now. Everything remains the same, with the exception of a single designation that now puts a truly undue burden upon ourselves to maintain that. It would also require some form of a association being created, which is another legal expense and hardship for us to be able to agree upon maintenance and enforcement of the plowing and maintaining of this, as well as the fact that if we decided, well, we've all got vehicles enough, we can make it through whatever, we're just gonna leave it. What would that, as our option, as a private way, where would that leave the city for maintenance of their facilities or the other utilities based on, it would just, the logistics of not being accepted, I think may play out to be more than what ultimately it would cost the city to be accepted and continue to what they're doing now.
I can't speak for the board, but I suspect it'll probably work out fine. We need to get a couple more people here and
Make it official.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have to work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't oppose either, so.
Thank you.
So if you
Thank you, I have to work.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Did you say you wouldn't oppose?
No, absolutely not.
Good.
As I said, we have previously approved a street that runs parallel to yours in almost identical situation. The narrowness issue is of concern to me, but as I said, I would not oppose.
Thank you. Good to hear that.
Okay, is Pine Valley Road off the,
Well, the thing about Pine Valley, it's problematic in some respects, but the fact that you have that letter from Sam Brindis, I think most of us think, well, that's it then.
We've made a commitment. The city has made a commitment with regard to Pine Valley that sort of, in my mind, would supersede any concerns that I have. We're not gonna take away from you something that the city has already committed to. I would be uncomfortable doing that.
this is your figure, oh, there is your figure, all the trucks coming down
Yeah.
Pine Valley Extension. There's no place for them to turn around except at the end, way at the end. I got pictures of my husband snow plowing it out for the fire truck, the ambulances, you figure there was the oil truck, all these trucks, in order to have a place to turn around, they turn around. Right now, I see the gas man came to my house last week, and he had, I guess, backed in. And when I went out there, he said he backed in. Where does he have to start off of Burt's Pit Road
No, he's
and
probably
come
going back.
all the way around the corner and twist around the road to come into the thing? So, I don't know.
Well,
And
that letter-
I know I can't shovel anymore.
Oh, sure you can.
I tried this year, believe you me, I've worked on it for 7 years after my husband died. But myself now, I go out and I shovel a little bit, go back in the house, go back, shovel a little bit more, back in the house. And I said, that's the last year I can shovel out. Probably won't be here next year, I shouldn't worry about it.
Well, I think the letter is persuasive, and
Yeah, exactly. Whatever concerns I might have had about continuing to plow it, I can't in good conscience recommend the city going back on a commitment they've already made.
Oh, I've got all kinds of letters
So,
in here,
yeah.
really. Oh, I've been there 50 years,
That's a long time.
and that's a long time.
So I think you can safely go home, and you're certainly welcome to stay if you'd like.
Oh, I thank you so much. Thank you all.
Okay.
Do we have a copy of the letter on file?
Yes.
And you're on the same street.
Yeah, I'm on that
You just
Pine
have
Valley.
to
Yeah, I'll take her home.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks.
Well, actually, you can take the one, because it's not.
Have a seat.
Your husband suggested you could be a member of the board and vote.
Who could, me?
Yeah, so
Said
you're
you're
up
up
the
the
street
street
aisle.
knowledge.
And you got your college.
Speaking of which, I saw.
Did I read correctly in the paper, there's gonna be 2 seats coming up?
That there were 2
I
openings
don't know
on
what
the
that
board.
means. You
Are
did
we?
read it correctly in the paper.
Okay.
I'm going to.
I was tardy.
Waiting.
I was tardy to reapply.
I am, but
I think
that's.
they'll put me back
They're
out.
on.
Supposed to be here at 6:15.
Okay, cool.
You're
They
safe,
just
you
have
just
put in
got.
the-
I just got here, so, but I'm going.
You know, if you're not gonna say.
Oh, 2
Well, so,
openings.
all right, so.
I can patch the board.
So I have to be
You're
reappointed.
just recently
Yeah.
got
What, 2 years ago?
No, it wasn't that long ago.
Ed, do you, do you make comments about, your street that you'd like to?
They can't.
No, I mean, you look at it, I mean, the only thing I was concerned about was when you mentioned it was kinda like Lakewood,
Yeah, what?
kinda like Lakewood, because it's not kinda.
There's some youngsters on the street.
No, that's not the reason, it's not. No, none of those were built to subdivision specs, and of course, you know, Lakewood owns it on both sides, and of course, it's for that sake that you own the streetlights, you own the utilities, you own everything.
So Baker Hill is built to subdivision standards?
That is my understanding, but I'm not finding a lot of records in our files about inspection reports and city sign-offs that it was constructed to standards, or a professional engineer stamp that was typically seen as a subdivision that was built to city standards as we accept it as a public way. I did forward that information to you and to Paul
You did,
this year.
yeah, the survey information.
Right, that's the
yeah.
best information.
Yeah,
have
I didn't know
on
if
the
you wanted, I mean, I wasn't gonna pay money to Paul at the moment, but I didn't know whether you wanted us to do the survey or not. I mean, the 3 pieces have essentially been done, once you gave me that 1,000 feet.
Yeah, we're under contract with Northeast Survey for the private ways right now.
Yeah.
So that's information that he would probably use going forward,
Right.
along with information he collects on the bottom half of Baker Hill Road.
But essentially, except for the little bottom piece, the road's been done.
Yeah,
And how about that issue further down the hill? As far as whether the people on the east side own some land on the west side?
there's a survey plan that we have on file, a stamp survey plan, that doesn't have that as an ownership issue that
Right.
you discussed. This is the one that Baker Hill Associates did to have the gas line put in up there. It doesn't show that issue of pins going across the street from other properties.
The original subdivision plan does not show that either.
Right.
The only plan that shows property owned by the 2 Ryan siblings across the road is the plan that, I don't know who prepared it, but the planning board refused to sign off on it. But apparently, Mike Ryan knew Mary Ann Donahue, and it got recorded at the registry, even though it does not comply with the statutory requirements for recording, because it's not signed by the planning board.
Is that the deed that dead ends? It just stops and
Yeah, yes.
it's like book 1000, page 111, you go there and there is no book and
There's
page
no
number.
book or
Right.
page. The planning board did not sign off on it. It's not a valid survey. But nobody, Peter McConnell, me, and Andy Siegel have all looked at it and come to the same conclusion. That property only goes to the roadway like the rest of them. It does not cross the road.
But at the top of the hill, isn't that a subdivision at the top of the hill? There's Baker Hill Road,
Yeah,
and
yes,
at the top of the
yes.
hill is a subdivision.
yes,
That was built under subdivision regs.
yes.
But Baker Hill Road wasn't part of that subdivision.
No, it's the same as Ice Pond. I did Ice Pond when Hospital Hill did that. And what you do when you do those is you do a declaration of covenant and easements to give everybody a right to travel on the road, to put their water lines and everything in. And then at some point in time, you come into the city and you petition for them to accept it as a public way.
Right.
And the city accepted Ice Pond Drive as a public way.
But why had Baker Hill Road subdivision never been accepted
Because
as
the
a public way?
DPW expressed in its comments to the subdivision that they didn't want to accept the street. That was a position of the board at the time, was you didn't like to accept extra streets.
When was that?
1982.
1882?
19. I'm not that old. I'm old, but I'm not that old. No, I don't think it was any sort of reason evaluation or anything else. It just was a position that the board was not anxious to accept extra streets at the time. I don't even know if it was the board, it may have been just the.
Well, the staff was recommending that we push back on accepting streets in the 90s.
Yeah, and I think that was the same thing in the 80s, and so it just was a DPW gives comments to all subdivisions, and their comment was, we don't want to
We
accept
can't
the
afford to
street.
accept more streets.
Exactly, that was the comment, and so, given that being a comment, nobody going to come back and say, did you change your mind yet?
And was there also an agreement that the subdivision owners would pay for plowing, or?
Well, that's part of the Declaration of Covenants.
Yep.
Yeah,
Maintaining all the utilities,
maintain
plow,
utilities, everything else.
maintain the roadway.
Right,
Basically, they own it in common.
right.
So currently, how many people are part of the subdivision?
On that side, 6.
Meaning on that side of the mountain?
Well, yes, the
Yeah,
original
okay.
plan
Okay.
they mentioned
Right,
was to
right.
go through,
But
but
it didn't go
the stub that comes up
So-
from Federal Street is 4.
Out of the 6, not including Baker Road, just the subdivision, does the city plow all of that, or do you have somebody
No,
else
city plows
plow?
all of it. Yeah, it's sort of in 3 sections. There's the 500-foot section at the bottom, which was, when I first looked at this, I used to go into work at 7 in the morning on Saturdays, and Pat Goggins' office was down at the bottom of the street, and I would read the Gazette and do some work, and I saw in the legal notices the subdivision hearing for this property. So I said, oh, this is interesting, so I walked down the street and said to Pat, what are you doing? And he showed me the plans, and he says, here are the plans, you can have any lot you want except this one, because Bob Patno has already selected that one. So I grabbed the plans, went home, got my wife up, got her some coffee, and we went up there. And Dick will tell you, who's lived there for years, right there at the 500, from years of plowing, all the debris, I mean, there was a berm there that was probably 4 or 5 feet high. Yeah, but a big berm there.
The
from
pavement
all-
ended there and the wood started.
Yeah, the pavement ended and there was a big berm there and there was a path that went up for the old sort of roadway that went over it, but you couldn't get there. So we climbed over the berm, walked up the path, identified from the flags from the surveyor where the lot was, and we picked a lot. Now, the subdivision which the city approved was only the 6 houses. The Ryans who owned it, Judge Ryan had acquired it in a foreclosure in the 50s. We tried a couple times to put a couple of subdivisions up there. And the final plan that succeeded was when they cut down the number of houses to basically go with what is now not the sustainable 1 acre plus. So we all have 1 acre to 2 acres of land up there. And especially long because they put the frontage down on Riverside Drive, because that was when pork chop lots were legal, which they no longer are. So we don't have a legal frontage, so to speak. But the 6 lots up there were part of the subdivision. But the road was built for the whole length because Judge Ryan reserved 2 lots for his kids, Tony and Annie, in the middle. And those houses were built. I don't know how they were built because Baker Hill Road is not a public way. Those lots have no frontage.
So
The 6
they
lots
were-
on the top at least had subdivision approval to enter the
Right, so they would have
frontage.
been technically 7 and 8.
If they had been part of
If they had been part of
yes,
the
but they are
subdivision.
not part of the association.
Right, okay. But meanwhile, the city began plowing.
Well, the city had already plowed the stub.
It's for the judge.
Originally there were 3 lots on that section, they subdivided it.
So you're saying that Ice Pond, if we were to go back in history with Ice Pond,
Same type of project.
previous to it being accepted as a city street, they also had covenants to.
I wrote the covenants. You can look them up online. It's a declaration of
And
covenants.
would that be true,
It's
for example, Cardinal Way?
Same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. Every subdivision has a declaration, because until you accept the street, the neighbors have to rely on the easements for the water and sewer and to drive over that street.
Yeah.
Now, usually, whoever the developer is, Todd Segura or Jonathan Wright or whoever doing the development, they plow the streets. I mean, in other words, the association never takes effect.
Right.
Same as for us. Nobody pays attention that they have. The only people who pay attention are the lawyers to make sure they have rights, those sorts of things. But the owners never pay attention. The developer, you know, plows them, does all the rest of that stuff. And when he's about done with the lots, you can get yourself down to the city and get that street accepted, so that I don't have to plow it.
But the subdivision actually at one, unlike Ice Pond, this subdivision was actually rejected by the city. Is that what you're saying? No, it just,
That's exactly
it never went past the BPW to the
The
city.
board put comments in, as it does on every subdivision, about things,
Yeah.
about how deep your storm drains have to be, the catch basins, they comment on it, which makes sense.
Sure.
But one of the comments at the time was, we don't want to accept the street. But that was the
But
philosophy.
no justification.
That's-
Well,
didn't
they
have to
used
write
to
it out,
argue,
they just-
the staff used to argue, don't accept the street, we cannot afford to keep plowing more and more
right,
streets.
right.
That was just the sentiment at
Yeah.
the time.
Right.
It's like no pressure.
It may still be the sentiment. I mean, you could reject all of these streets. I mean, my point of view is, we're no different than any of those others, and of all the streets that are on here. If you're going to accept other streets, we would be the most obvious to accept. I mean, at least we have a cul-de-sac with property you can push the snow down. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything when you're plowing. You've been doing that for years.
But our concern is that we have to worry about 50 other private ways coming in and asking to be plowed, and we have to have some
Criteria.
some protection.
Yeah, but a criteria that we are different somehow rather than other is not, that's not the case.
I know. And
Every subdivision has that declaration of
Yeah.
covenants and restrictions.
Yeah.
I wrote the covenants and restrictions for both sides of
Yeah.
Hospital Hill for mass development.
And do you recall what the fire flows were up there?
I don't, I mean, I know you tested them at the time, and there's a hydrant on the Coffey's property. I mean, it's in the street layout. The layout, you've seen the survey,
The
is,
right-of-way
I think
layout.
it's, the layout is much wider than the roadway. The pavement is never fully to the edge. I know that there was a pressure issue until you put that new pipe in, standpipe someplace, I don't remember where it was. When we first built, it was a problem. And then you did some pipe in the late 80s that made a difference. And I'm the top of the hill. I'm higher than the hydrant by 30 feet.
Or the only one I could think of was Turkey Hill Road, and that's offline.
I have no problems now,
So you feel it's better than it was in the beginning?
but much better than it was in the beginning. I mean, I don't know what other improvements were made. There was some standpipe or something that was done at some point in time in the late 80s that improved it significantly. And that's at my house. And now I have no problem. I have the same pressure at my house as I have at my office, which is downtown. And my house is probably 30 feet elevation above where the hydrant is. So I think they would be fine.
So the hydraulic grading now starts at the plant up in Haydenville. Before that, there's pressure runoff the Turkey Hill Road tank. The reservoir road tank never went online.
Right.
So I think that's probably the things that changed over time, is that we went from Turkey Hill Road, when that went offline, when the transmission main from Ryan went in the mid-90s, 95, 96, that took over that tank. And then with the plant, now the plant creates the pressure gradient for the city.
So,
Yeah, it's even better actually since the plant went on. But I mean, it wasn't bad after the late 80s.
in terms of the roadway, anything else, any other comments?
I didn't measure the width of the road when we were out there. I don't know if two cars can pass
I
simultaneously.
Yeah, I
think the
think the
pavement is
the width-
22.
Yeah, the width is okay.
So that would actually meet current subdivision standards for a low-volume subdivision roadway like
Yeah.
Cardinal Way. I think it's under 200 ADTs. We'd allow it to be 22 feet wide of pavement.
Yeah, I think, most if it's gonna be low volume, the developer will always apply to cut it from 24 to 22, rather than paving the extra. I mean, it's nice to have the open space anyway, but it's limited traffic other than, I think there's not a small number of people who live on that street. Dick, how many houses are there?
You got your 6 and 4 and 2 and 4 and 3, 7 more. 3, 6 plus the 13 houses.
Chris, can you think of any other questions?
No.
And it does go to 20, it goes the extra 2 feet from the subdivision down.
And you're not petitioning the other side from Warner Street coming in. It's only your side.
No, that's not called Baker Hill at all. That's called Warner Street, or Warner Street Extension or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's even on your list. Is that?
It's not on our list.
There
Because
is
there's never
no
been a
width
petition
listed
received
on
for
this
it.
one. It's
Uh-huh.
odd.
There's 4 houses on that side.
Right.
Mark
that where Immerman?
Mark Immerman's
Yeah,
house, Bob Patno's house, professor at Smith.
Typsonian.
Huh?
Typsonian.
Typsonian. And another professor at Smith, geologist, Bob Berger.
Yeah, that's Warner Street though.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're good at,
So what was interesting on Baker Hill and Warner Street is that the city, we didn't create our own petition for it because it had the covenants on it that said they would maintain it. So we haven't even approached the Warner Street side about becoming a public way.
but it sounds like what Ed is explaining is that every subdivision begins with those covenants, and they just never graduated.
Not.
No, every subdivision does not begin, Ice Pond did not have the recommendation from DPW not to accept it.
No,
as a
no,
public
but you,
street.
but you
It
began
had the
with the
declaration of
covenants.
covenants with an easement,
Yes,
an
that's what I'm saying.
association, the rights to use the road, the rights to share the water and sewer.
So it
had
sounds
all
like that's
that.
not
It
unique.
did not have a recommendation in its permit from DPW not to accept the street.
I understand.
Because that was
I
in-
wasn't saying that was the same as our code.
that was in 2000, so that's the only.
Different era.
I'm saying the
It's a
covenants.
different era. That's the only thing that's
Yeah.
different with ours, is it has the recommendation from DPW not to accept
You
it.
chose the
Yeah,
wrong,
no, I
wrong
got
time
that.
to be born.
So, what was your point, Ned?
Just the fact that they agreed that they never intended to make this like what I could figure to be a private way or a public way until I heard Ed tell his story tonight that the DPW didn't want that. I assumed they wanted it for their own privacy up there.
No, it came with that. In fact,
But
what
we
Goggins.
just don't know, there's no documentation that it came, I'm not distrusting you. Let's be clear
No,
about that.
the staff
Yeah.
clearly was arguing against accepting any streets.
I know the era, but Ned said didn't find,
We have a thin file on it, it's not a
Yeah, you
huge
did,
file on it,
yeah.
and there's correspondence from Andrew Keating and Brindis on this. No, Brindis was on, but Andrew Keating was, and probably Peter McNulty.
Yeah,
He
Peter
was
was
there when it was put in.
But it's, I mean, it was clear that it wasn't gonna become a public way to me, reading through the thin file. But I don't know the history from '83 that happened out here.
Yeah, I don't recall any rationale for it. It just was, that was the policy at the time. The city didn't want to accept street. It's the same thing as the way the subdivision is laid out. I mean, the original plan that was filed with the city had that road going all the way through and down Warner Street. And the neighbors all came in and they thought it was going to become a shortcut that people were cutting through Baker Hill. And now the city planning department, their philosophy has now shifted to, we don't want cul-de-sacs and dead ends. And so, but at the time, they were accommodating the neighbors. So what they said was, fine, would you agree to separate it into 2 cul-de-sacs? And of course, the developer wants to build this project, and the planning department,
All right.
whatever you say, we'll do.
So just so the board knows, the only other street that we have, a private way in the city that has a similar type situation as Shepherd's Hollow, where they have all the pork chop lots on
Right.
Chesterfield Road, but that's private and they never petitioned the city to become a public way.
Yeah, they may want it to be private. We're a little different. Because we
All right,
don't have.
so let us start the meeting.
Oh,
All right, let's call the meeting to order.
1 hour late.
We're being, yes,
Better late than never.
we're being recorded by,
Mimi Odgers, North Street Neighborhood Association.
excellent. Let's jump right, can I have a motion to jump right to,
Motion to move.
Second.
all right, jump right to work. Let's start with Baker Hill Road, number 15.
Did you like the language?
So we have before us a petition from the residents of Baker Hill Road. They're asking us to recommend that the city council accept Baker Hill Road as a public street.
Straight.
Would anyone like to make a
Move to
motion?
accept.
Second.
Any discussion? Further discussion? MJ, any thoughts?
It's in my neighborhood, I know it well.
Okay.
I think it's.
I don't like the residents, but.
All right.
It's reasonable, I mean, it looks like a.
they're so pushy.
Yeah. All right, so the motion on the table is to recommend that the city council accept Baker Hill Road as a public street. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
I'd stay for the rest of it, but I'm wasting
All right.
Yeah, just history. I like history.
No, it's very, actually, it's always helpful. Thank you. Next, number 16, we'll circle back to 14. 16, Bratton Court. That's the little street that connects to the bike path.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm concerned if we put King Street on, to revisit it, that we shouldn't revisit this at the same time.
That we should.
Yeah, right.
King
We should
Ave.
revisit.
So King Ave
King
is a
Ave.
couple streets over, and we
Right.
said no, because it wasn't
Well,
wide
we
enough.
said that we would revisit it.
I've gotta agree with Roe, I think that that this should be among the ones that we're tabling and recircling back to.
I'm fine with that. At the time, I'm gonna vote for it, but I'm fine
I
with
just
that.
think we need to be consistent
I am
because
not.
this
It's-
is
yeah.
such a sensitive issue.
I am not
The
disagreeing
issue is
with you.
consistency, Julie. I know you,
It's not
the three of
about,
you have invested an hour, and I don't think in the long run there's a problem. We started off with the 40 streets with some criteria. For example, we wanted there to be sufficient width for two-way traffic, and that's the one that those streets along there are a little on the edge of. We realized as we started looking at these streets that perhaps we had been too strict in in the earlier streets. You know, that if you're going for a job
We couldn't just set
interview.
a precedent tonight since you
No,
had.
no, let me
Okay,
finish.
sorry.
That thing about if you want to be the first person interviewed for a job, would you rather be the last one? It's hard to know. Well, the early streets in this process, we realized retrospectively, perhaps we were too strict about what we were going to accept and not accept. So the board's thinking moving forward over the last couple of meetings where we've done this is, all right, had this street been first, we would have said no. Let's not have shifting criteria. We'll just put it in that pile that we're going to look at early in September. I don't anticipate a problem, but it's just an attempt to be
we have to have a defensible.
consistent. kind of-
It's better to do
Yeah.
it the right way and not be
Yeah.
questioned.
That's the intention.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not, it's not that you're hanging by your fingernails.
So it's not like if MJ were to hear what I wrote or not hear what I wrote, that would influence your vote? Or,
I believe that's true. You've got a
Okay.
lovely street.
Would you like to
Which
put
one do you
those?
live at, 5?
I'm 3 Bratton, but I'll give these into there are 2 letters, one for my business and one.
That'd be great,
I'll
that way
take
they're
them.
part of the record, and we'll
Yeah.
give them to the Board of Public Works.
Okay.
So everybody would
I'll
have it.
scan them
Yeah.
and make
Okay.
sure they
I
all
worked
see
hard
it.
on it.
No, you did,
It was a
and we
good
see,
letter.
we appreciate
Good
your
letter.
time here.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of people on that street that really care about the community, and we just really like to see, I think it would create more problems for it to be private than it would just to be public.
I don't think there's any need to be concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Nice for that.
All right,
So,
thank you very much.
you table King Street and R Street until when?
And several more
For-
streets.
It'd be the
September 11th, I believe,
approximately.
first meeting
Okay.
in September,
Alright,
which is
Okay.
the second Wednesday of the month.
September 11th. Oh, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I can remember that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so, wanna withdraw the motion,
Sure, I withdraw the motion on.
and then let's have a fresh motion to table this pending the review.
I make a motion that we table Bratton Court for further review at a later time.
Second?
All in favor of tabling it until September 11th?
Aye.
Are we gonna do all the other streets on September 11th?
We're gonna look at all the ones where we have voted to
No or tabled.
no or table.
But that's the night.
The question I asked, are you also looking to revisit the ones that never received a petition from, that you said no to? There's a number, the first 6 we went to,
No.
we revisited most of those with a petition.
I was gonna say, I can't, which ones did we not go back to?
Bottoms Road,
Yeah.
Meadow Ave.
Meadow Ave,
No, let's just,
Okay.
If we haven't gotten a petition,
They
they
knew.
knew
Yep.
the process was happening. We've actually heard in one case from residents of the street on another issue.
Okay, I'll just
Yeah.
Okay.
have another color list for them.
All right, so number 14 is Franklin
We have a
Court.
reason for it.
It's a little dead-end street just in from Prospect.
Move approval.
Second.
You're going to 14?
Yes.
Okay,
I skipped over it because there was no one from 14 here.
okay.
Second.
Second, okay.
Is that the one across Franklin, it's off of Franklin Street or off?
It's off of
Franklin.
Franklin.
Yeah.
It runs
You know that
parallel
one
to
that's across from the
Prospect.
Y?
Yeah.
It's in a similar orientation, but it's just over on Franklin.
Oh, the next one, okay, we've been there.
Runs parallel to Prospect. Like
Cute
little
little
English
street.
cottages.
All in favor of recommending that the city council should accept Franklin Court as a public street?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Next is Strawberry Hill.
Move approval.
That's the one that up by Alexander Borowski's house.
Second that,
Oh, right, this is the one that runs parallel to Hillcrest.
perpendicular.
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular to
Yes.
Hillcrest, yes.
Okay. All in favor of recommending that the city council should accept Strawberry Hill as a public street?
Aye.
The next is Peter McNulty's street. It's that little street off of Route 9, pokes in toward the Meadows, just east of Florence, or just west of Florence Center. Greeley.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alexander's Market?
As if you're driving out toward Look Park,
Okay.
you take the left.
That was one where
Last-
one of the
last
adjacent residents was concerned about losing access.
The farmer wanted to make sure he could always
Right.
get down into the fields.
Yes.
Right. He owns a
But it
house-
was wide enough.
Yeah.
And it was, there was parking, two-way traffic.
And it's paved.
It's
Yes.
paved. I think I can
Get
move
behind that.
approval, yeah.
Well, if Steve makes the motion, I will second it.
I believe you have made that motion. Or no, you think you can.
I'm making the motion.
Okay, second. So all in favor of recommending that the city council accept Greeley Avenue as a public street?
Aye.
With the provision they take down the private way sign.
It's 30 feet. It's 30 feet wide.
It
so
is wide, yeah,
it's-
yeah.
I just would double check on
Yeah.
that, like parking. Okay, cool.
Oh man,
I have to abstain on the Clark Street.
alright, so so there's no one here from Clark Street, we can,
I know where they all are.
so let's vote to, we have a motion to table Clark Street.
I move we table Clark Street.
Second.
I'll second that.
All in favor of tabling Clark Street?
Aye.
Great. Then finally, the Pine Valley Road extension.
Move we accept.
I'll
Okay.
second for the purpose of discussion.
All right. So the key point that seems to argue in favor of plowing it or recommending acceptance is they have a letter from the Department of Public Works director stating that we will plow it, no problem, don't give it a thought.
Until the residents of the way change their mind. I believe that's the way it's written.
Yeah.
I'll grab it.
I think it would be important to see that. The residents change their mind. We have
It
to
said
honor
we'll plow
that.
as long as you want us to.
Yeah.
Well, if you recall, I took exception to accepting the road that it comes off of.
Right.
Oh, I abstained from
This is
that
like a
one.
road too far.
I know, exactly. I abstained from that one. You
And I'm
objected.
with you, under any other circumstances, I would reject that soundly. But the existence of a letter from the city making a commitment effectively into perpetuity, I don't see us it being appropriate for us to go back on that.
So if someone exceeds their authority, that we should honor that forever?
I hear that as well. But you know, that's what courts are for.
Would you like me to read the letter?
Yes, please.
It's dated December 6, 1991. It's to Kathleen Fallon, who was the city solicitor, from Sam Brindis, who was the director of public works then. Dear Ms. Fallon, Pine Valley Road extension from Pine Valley Road to a point 430 feet plus or minus westerly and southerly is a common driveway that has been open for public use for over 20 years. The Department of Public Works has maintained a gravel roadway, including grading, sanding, and plowing to a point along the Raymond Shore property. We intend to continue the maintenance of Pine Valley Extension as we have done in the past. If the abutters all agree that they no longer want Pine Valley Road maintained, at that time, the Department of Public Works will discontinue all maintenance of the roadway. Please contact me if you have any questions, or Peter McNulty at 582-1570. Very truly yours, Sam Brindis.
Doesn't it go easterly up the Pine Valley extension, Pine Valley?
It loops around.
You see, there's so much question from where the old road was and where the new road is, or where the new way is that people drive in to get to their properties. This is one of the difficulties I have with this section.
It doesn't get the big picture of everything. This map here is what is known as Pine Valley Road now. The old Pine Valley Road was over here historically and came around through a number of properties and hooked up into this curve in this area. The city came in and put a water line in the 1950s, and in the 1980s we extended a sewer line in here. And with that, this easement was already in place up to this point for the water line, and it was extended this far for the sewer lines. Pine Valley Road extension comes off of here and hooks around and comes up into, I think, two houses up there, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
It's a gravel, one width-way gravel way. There are no public utilities in it, versus there is public sewer and water this entire length, and this is what they currently use for access. Mr. Rassicot's house is here. He was the gentleman who spoke against accepting this extension.
And that is just an easement, it is not a road layout, right?
It is an easement for Department of Public Works to maintain their utilities.
When, I think what happened was when they dug up the thing, there's a nice flat spot and you could just drive on it. And it was easier and shorter than the other road, and over time it became the road.
It was probably easier to plow for the city too, since we were maintaining it.
Yeah, so we didn't care.
Well, this is like when I was growing up at the end of Clark Street, they did the sewer intercept that went from down the end of Clark Street, all the way up along the stream, all the way up to Ryan Road School. And that was, you could actually drive a car on that, that's why I learned how to drive, that's on that stretch. And eventually it overgrew and people stopped using it, but you used to be able to drive the back way from the end of Clark Street up to Acrebrook Drive. Like it was a street.
Yeah. Same thing down in Meadows when they put the new, would that be stormwater, the sewer? What
Sewer.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just, it just seems so squishy as a street, that it feels like,
You'll have to go explain that to the two women who we sent home. Mike is okay with it. He is.
who's that here?
I know, no, he,
That's hearsay. I'm just sharing my impression that I really struggle with this one of all the ones that we have. I struggled, because I think it was an easement that has now been sort of openly and wantonly become the street. And
Well, we can have the vote, and you could, I'm comfortable with that. So do we have a motion?
yes, because we did have a motion.
Yeah, I move to approve.
And then I
Second for
seconded it
discussion.
to second.
So let's
discussion.
call the question. The motion is whether or not we should recommend that the city council accept Pine Valley Road Extension as a public street.
And that letter says very specifically Pine Valley Extension.
It does.
All in favor of making the recommendation to the city council?
Let me just look at it one last time.
Well, I just didn't hear you say Pine Valley Extension. I was
Pine
listening.
Valley Road extension from Pine Valley Road to a point 430 feet plus or minus westerly and southerly is a common driveway that has been open for public use for over 20 years.
Westerly.
Yeah, hooks around.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually it's easterly and southerly.
And then
Well,
they go on to
that's
say
my
that,
concern.
Yeah.
Westerly, it seems to imply the one, that little
Who's the
hook,
letter to?
that hook,
is to the city solicitor from Sam Brendis,
yeah.
previous
That-
director.
That westerly approach, I totally, cause that goes into the old street, but the easterly,
That's a good
it's
point.
totally
That's my
east
question.
and it's totally, it does come around to the south, I'll warrant that, but it does not go west.
It's clear on that.
Jim, help us out here.
I'm not involved in this.
Thank you. You're lucky.
I'm not apathetic, I'm just not involved.
Maybe
I abstained on the road, the
It goes
original
to the
road.
it goes,
East and south,
it goes east and south,
not west and south.
right.
And there is actually a
And there is a
section that goes
portion
west
that
and
goes
south
There is a
west
section
and
that
south,
goes west.
exactly,
That connects to the
exactly.
road.
to the old road. Remember that eye of the needle, you could kind of,
Well, it's,
I'll do some more research on this.
How about, can we table it?
Of course you
Oh, can you withdraw your motion and we'll table it?
I'd be more than happy to withdraw
Motion
my
to table?
motion.
Yeah,
Brindis was nothing but trouble.
man, we can end written.
Put me on the record.
Mary Ford was right. Okay, so, all in favor of tabling Pine Valley Road Extension? Okay.
My support for that was based entirely on the existence of the letter, and if there's any sort of question about what it does or does not cover, I'm more than happy to withdraw my motion,
Okay.
because that's a driveway.
All right, let's breeze, would people be comfortable if we breeze through the rest of this?
I hope so, because I'm strong.
All right,
I'm sorry, I had to go see my newborn baby.
No, that's totally okay. How newborn is?
She's 4 weeks old.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
could I have a motion to accept the minutes of July 24th and July 20th meetings? As a
Move
group.
approval for both of those, I read them both.
Excuse me.
I can't vote on both of them, I can only vote on one.
The first one was a meeting, the other one was a hearing, series of public hearings for private ways.
Hmm,
Yeah,
Just wanted to clarify that.
yeah,
okay,
I read
Can
them
we
both.
split them out?
sure. All right, motion on the first one, the Public Works meeting.
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor of approving the minutes from July 24th?
Aye.
Excellent. 2, minutes of the July 20th public hearing. Motion to approve?
And you're saying you can't do that?
I wasn't present.
So we don't have enough
Can't
votes.
vote on it.
I wasn't present at the July 20th meeting.
Okay, all right, motion to table, we'll just table those. Okay, request for permission to replace the sign at Lampron Park. Before you got back here, MJ, they made a real nice presentation, it's a lovely sign.
And it's gonna be at 7 other places in the city, and
Hey, and it doesn't
reflects,
say, if you park in the wrong place, we'll take your firstborn child. I love it.
and it reflects the bikeway pictures.
I just want to clarify what was given to us originally was strictly Lampron Park.
We're only voting on Lampron.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to approve the placement of that sign at Lampron Park?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Claims Committee meeting, we could do it before the next meeting?
When is the next meeting?
September 11th, apparently.
You're not doing
August 28th?
August 28th?
Really?
Well, maybe that's news to the board.
I thought we said that we were only having one meeting in August on the 14th.
It's fine with me.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless an emergency
happy
arises.
Although she does not get a vote.
No, I think September 11th is our
Certainly made
next.
her opinion known, didn't she?
Are you good with the 11th?
I'm not sure, cause, you know, first week of school,
Mhm.
I'm dead. But I
It's
will
also
try.
But I like the happy dance.
Just saying. Putting it in.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna schedule those for, prior to our meeting on the 11th.
September 11th,
Mhm.
5 and 5:15.
Sure. We can dispense with the updates probably.
Yep.
CPA grant, is there anything time sensitive there? Good for you for going back into the fray.
Yeah,
Feel good.
good, good.
Alright, so perhaps we could breeze through these contracts. Number 3, contract for sodium carbonate to Slack Chemical.
Move approval.
Second.
This is the yearly contract for pH control at the water treatment plant. Last year's bid was 28.31 cents, 0.2831 cents per pound. This year it's 0.2717 cents per pound. We did have 4 bidders on this, and the low bid was Slack Chemical. The high bid was 0.2975 cents a pound by Man Chemical.
What would that have turned into?
$40,162.50.
So they're all pretty close.
They are pretty close. $4,000 between all of them.
All in favor of approving the contract for sodium carbonate?
Aye.
Contract for sodium hypochlorite
Oh, see, I can't support that.
to Surpass Chemical. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
This is disinfection, this is for your public health, Mr. Hellman.
Yes, but I don't like hyperchlorite.
So this is disinfectant for the water treatment plant. This is our annual contract. We had 3 bidders. Low bidder was Surpass Chemical at 0.710 cents per gallon. Last year's bid was 0.712 cents per gallon. And the high bid was $17,580 from Slack Chemical.
So the price went down slightly.
Just a hair.
They got sodium carbonate, they're not gonna get sodium
That's
hypochlorite.
correct.
All in favor of approving the contract for sodium hypochlorite?
Aye.
Contract for the water treatment plant SCADA system support software or services to Aaron Associates of Connecticut in the amount of $24,900.
Move approval. Second.
This is the annual contract we have at the water treatment plant for the SCADA systems, which is the computer system that literally runs the plant in the absence of our staff there. Like I said, this has been going on for 4 or 5 years for this particular company. They're actually part of the team that set up the plant too.
Are you happy with the SCADA system? Is it?
We're very happy with it. There was no bids from Elm Electric and another company out of Plymouth now, it's called Autumn Tech Inc. Both had no bids.
All in favor of approving the contract for SCADA system support?
Aye.
Great. Contract for the purchase of watershed land on Whately Road in the amount of $120,000.
Have we seen this one before?
Yes.
We've talked about this in executive session. We previously had authorized staff to offer $120,000 for the purchase of
Cool.
a Fargo parcel, 26.5 acres in Conway. It's on the north, sort of the north tip of the Rhine Reservoir. It's a very important parcel for us. So on this map here, if you were to look, this is the Rhine Reservoir.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's this piece right there.
Oh, excellent.
So we reached agreement with the Bardwells, graciously accepted the offer that we made. So this is the paperwork to complete the purchase.
How many acres?
It's 26.5 acres, it has 740 feet of road frontage on Whately Road, so it's an important piece. Also for informational purposes, you should be aware that Nicole Sanford, submitted a grant application to the state to cover up to 50% of the costs associated with this particular purchase, so.
Okay,
Cool.
great. All in favor of approving, entering into a contract for purchase of the land?
Aye.
1-year extension of contract 29-13 for water meters and radio reads to E.J. Prescott.
Move approval.
Second?
This is a 1-year extension to service the needs of the water department for water meter installation and radio reads. It's a, annual contract of $164,831.57 with a CPI. So it's probably gonna be a 2 to 3% increase in that range.
And what's the, approximate amount?
$164,831.57 plus the CPI.
Approximate.
Give or take.
How many water meters will that cover?
I attached it on the back.
325 5/8 meters, 33 1/4 meters, 41 meters, 2 1.5 meters, 10 1.5 meters without connection flanges, 2 2 meters with connection flanges, 8 2 meters without connection flanges, 2 3 compound meters with strainer, 2 compound meters with strainer, and 750 radio read transmitters.
Thank you, Ned.
You're welcome.
So what's a
What's that add
compound,
to?
3-inch compound?
What's a flange?
Okay.
You want that by the square
It's a what?
It's about that
What's a-
big.
No, but what's the compound imply, as opposed
I
to just?
could not tell you what that implies.
And who would get a 3-inch meter? Would that be big
Cooley
enough for
Dickinson.
Cooley Dickinson,
Yeah.
or
Big facilities like that would have these large meters.
would a dorm at Smith get one that big?
No. No.
Maybe 2
No.
They probably have a central place.
Probably 2
where
inch
they're
though,
getting
like
it.
Cutter Ziskin is
Yeah.
probably a 2 inch line.
Uh-huh.
The meter for them.
Though their fire line is probably a 6 inch line coming in,
Sure.
a separate line.
Man, are they doing a number on that place, huh?
So there's nothing for the board to sign on
No,
this, it's just
a
informational.
verbal
Okay.
approval. Did they approve?
We did.
All right, so E.J. Prescott, nothing needs to be done. Next contract for resident inspection services to Robert Melstrom in the amount of $28,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Bob is our professional engineer that's been providing resident inspection services for us on projects the last few years. We've asked him to help us with inspection services on Chestnut Street water main replacement up in Florence, run from Main Street to High Street, about 800 feet of water main. And the second part of the contract is to provide inspection services on Woodmont Ave sewer force main replacement project. Both of these projects we're trying to accomplish this fall, so we're trying to get the contracts and things in place for them.
And how long will he be, how long will he be working on this?
The budgets are based on 5 weeks for each project.
All in favor of approving a contract for resident inspection services?
Aye.
Aye.
Contract for the construction of a new water main on Chestnut Street to A. Martins and Sons in the amount of $184,673.
Move approval.
Second.
As I just mentioned, we're working to replace 800 feet of water main up by Cooper's from Main Street and Florence to High Street. We opened up bids this week on this one. We had 7 bidders. The low bidder was A. Martin and Sons. We have the contracts here for $184,673. The high bidder was Davenport Trucking at $273,935. We had a group of contractors less than $190,000, so the bidding was tight. We had a number of bidders. We were happy with it. We haven't done work with A. Martin and Sons. One of the staff engineers called some towns around for recent work that they've done on water line work, and the work is fine. So we don't have any issue with them, although we don't have direct experience with them.
Okay. So all in favor of approving the contract with A. Martins and Sons?
Aye.
Aye.
Contract for the electrical testing of emergency generator and main switchgear at the wastewater treatment plant to AMP Electrical in the amount of $75,000.
Move approval. Second.
This is the work that was generated out of the administrative consent order with penalty from DEP for our wastewater overflow last year into the old Mill Riverbed when the generator failed. So basically, we had two responsive bidders, we had Elm Electric and Amp Electric. The high bidder was Elm at $117,150, the low bidder was Amp Electric at $75,000. Basically, this entails bringing in 3 full-size generators to run the plant while we take the entire plant offline and shut it down and test the emergency generator to ensure that that and the switchgear is functioning, so we can move forward with any capital projects associated with that. The engineer's estimate was, probable estimate was $130,000. So, the goal of this is get this work done. We have until November 15th to have a full report back to Mass DEP on this. So we're looking to get this project going ASAP.
This is great, way better than the last time we talked about it. All in favor of approving the contract for electrical testing?
Aye.
Okay. Change order number 1 to contract 67-13 for the forest stewardship to Michael Mowry. The amount of, we're just extending the contract.
Yep.
Move approval.
Second.
Actually, could we take
11 and 12 together?
11 and 12 together?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Great.
One contract, there's about $4,000 left, and the other one, I think there's 16 or 18,000 left, so we wanted to extend so we could just use it.
Okay, great. All in favor of extending those 2 contracts?
Aye.
Finally, a request for permission to occupy Pulaski Park on Sunday, October 6th.
Move approval.
By Shelter Sunday.
Second.
This is an annual event that they do. Everything's in order with the county concurrence, police concurrence, and deposits and checks being paid.
Sweet. All in favor of giving them permission to occupy Pulaski Park?
Aye.
Stormwater, water and flood control update, there's not much to report.
Committees are moving.
The 2 subcommittees
Yeah,
are
back to moving.
doing their work.
Monday and Tuesday next week at 8 o'clock each morning. The first one is Monday will be the fee
Fees.
committee, and on Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock to 9:30 will be the incentive credits committee.
Let's see.
And we have some great work that the staff is doing with all this making decisions.
The city council meets tomorrow night, and I believe they will complete the process of accepting the task force's report and formally asking us to continue working on it and to create a prospective ordinance for their considerations at some point in early fall. I met with the mayor this morning, brought him up to speed, and told him how I imagined our process would go. I've committed us to holding a public hearing after Labor Day, and subsequent to that, we'll wrap up our work and forward everything to the city council for their consideration. And the joint committee is meeting on Monday.
Monday at 4.
That's all I got for that. And Jim has been doing it fine.
Is this where we were talking about the wastewater meeting on September the 3rd? The wastewater treatment meeting?
That's the report.
The report. I'm just trying to figure out what that meeting is about, that's all.
That meeting is looking at task 8 and sitting
So
down
it is task force.
basically
Okay.
4 hours, 8 to noon, it's scheduled for that day.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
I mean, that's a lot of trees.
And it's basically looking and deciding which alternatives we want to move forward so they can put pricing structures to them.
Right,
So basically, we have 2 hours dedicated to the collection system and
okay.
2 hours dedicated to the wastewater treatment plant. I did send out an email to the board about some tours coming up the wastewater treatment plant. If you can't make that particular one, be happy to show you the plant anytime between the hours of 7 and 3, Monday through Friday.
Well,
when
I
staff is
was
there.
on a tour 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
Not much has changed.
Okay.
It's a great tour.
So.
I know, it's very interesting, plus it's interesting in terms of the documentation that Kleinhelder is doing. So that's the day that you'll talk about the different options for task gate, and so those big pieces of options,
All
that's
come-
that's the time when we should give feedback by.
That's correct.
Okay, I don't think I'll be able to make it to the meeting, but,
That's what
So-
we're looking for, is that feedback.
It's on the 5th.
No, I thought it was the 21st.
the 21st?
What's the tour on the 21st?
No,
Yeah,
he's
when-
talking about the 21st of
When's
August.
the meeting?
Yes.
But the
Task
That is
Cascade.
September
I think it was
5th,
5th, yeah,
Sorry,
Fifth.
my bad.
yeah,
I'll shut up now.
From,
8 to noon.
I already sent you an agenda.
yeah,
Yeah.
you sent it out.
I just want, it's not in my phone, I wanna get the phone the right way.
Those meetings were great with Kleinfelder and the board, I really appreciate that.
I learned
Just
a
felt
lot.
we covered so much.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, it's just the beginning of school is just real hard for me, so, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not apologizing. It's that.
Okay, man, I think we're getting there.
We're blowing through it.
And Jim, would that be all right if we talk about Pulaski Park next time? Is there anything that's time sensitive?
Not at this point.
Okay. Private ways, we've certainly spent enough time on that tonight.
So I am creating a master list right now of all the dates and so on, so that for your next meeting, you know exactly where we stand with every single one in a very clear, concise table.
Okay,
Thank you.
I know, it feels like all of a sudden these reports have been done, and all of a sudden they're all here for us to start sorting through and making decisions about.
Man, I think we are,
So we're done, move approve.
anything that you were hoping to talk about there?
Move-
No, move,
Motion
okay,
adjourned.
yeah,
And
No,
yeah.
I
then
got-
approval, I meant, sorry.
Let's put something here. Let 'em see.
Oh,
Alex Giesling came in to see me today. We have a meeting set up, or I have a meeting set up for the Clement Street Bridge.
When is that gonna be?
That is gonna be on September 10th at 6 PM at the Piper School.
Can you, send out an email
I will do
notification of
that.
that? Okay, cause I really wanna attend that.
So this is the first meeting, it's basically the Bay State Village Association and the neighborhood, and discussing about the future of Clement Street Bridge.
On the 11th? Did you
On the
say?
10th,
Oh, on the 10th.
September
Not
7th, I believe it's a
create a
Monday
mass-
night, excuse me, Tuesday night.
Board meeting for next week.
excellent. MJ, all set? You good? You have pictures?
No, not yet, they're taking pictures now. I know, which is,
Didn't have your phone, oh, you didn't have your phone with
well,
you.
I didn't, no,
Of course.
no, I didn't wanna be interrupted.
And you're good? Alright,
I'm-
great.
No, I guess I'm not good.
Oh. So I think we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, second.
All good?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Maybe I should come out.